Joined by Dr. Robert Sutter. He's the visiting professor at Georgetown University. So, what are you making of this debate? I mean, we seem to be generating a lot of heat, but very little light.
I think that's right. It's a political exercise in the United States. We're in an election year. The U.S. officials have to show they're doing something about the inequities in the trade with China. The complaints about currency are backed up by complaints about Chinese industrial policy and Chinese cheating on intellectual property rights. And so there's a sense that these differences have been in existence for a long time. They're festered. And now the Congress feels they need to take some action that will show they're actually doing something about these things, and that will lead, hopefully, to some tangible results.
I really hate to be binary about this, but it does seem as though China's being cast as a bad guy here.
Well, it is a bad guy in these areas. I think these have been long-standing disputes from the American side. The Chinese are taking advantage of the system from the American perspective, and I think there's a lot of validity in the American complaints, it seems to me. And so you do have an understandable frustration on the U.S. side. Now, the practical matter, if you're pragmatic about it, how do you do this in a way that's not going to hurt yourself? The two economies are so interdependent. And so if the U.S. pushes this really hard, it's going to hurt the overall global economy and hurt U.S. Economic interests as well as Chinese. And so Mr. Geithner is probably going to try to keep this on an even keel.
We've got to go behind, but the back channels are probably more important here, aren't they?
Well, I think you need both, don't you? I think you need a sort of good cop, bad cop situation, and the Congress is playing its usual bad cop role, and that can be helpful if it doesn't lead to concrete action.
Okay, so as long as they're seen to be doing something rather than actually doing something.
That's right, and I think that it shows the frustration, and I think this is a serious issue for China to think about.
If they get this bill through, this Chinese Yuan bill through, what would that do? How damaging would it be?
I don't think it would be all that damaging. I haven't looked at the details of the bill. The bills always change as they go through the process. I'm not sure Mr. Obama would sign the bill. And so I think what we're looking at here is the preliminary stage of, and this will go on through the fall, till early fall, of Congress venting its frustrations over China's industrial policies and various unfair trading practices from the American perspective.
Doctor, when do they actually move on the Yuan, if at all? Do you have a time frame in your head?
Yes, I do. I think you need to look at China as a win-win approach, and China has to win. And so what has to be demonstrated here is when do the circumstances allow China to win in this case, or when are the costs so high that in order to win they have to do what the outside want. And in this case, I think China is very cautious, very risk adverse, and doesn't want to do this, and so they will do it very slowly. But if the pressure rises, perhaps they'll do it a bit more quickly.
Dr. Robert Sutter, thank you so much for joining us as visiting professor at Georgetown University.